Welcome to the show. My name is Joey Galvez, and I'm here with my pal Benjamin Morse. And we've got all kinds of really great guests this week. We have Travis Gibb, we have Jeff Ryder, and we have Madeleine Holly. Rosing.
Rosing. You got it. You got it.
I have lots of stuff in front of my monitor, so blame me. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with us. We're gonna be talking to you guys a little bit about your guys' Kickstarters going live right now. We're gonna start with Adam because Adam has to head out a little bit early. He's got a family, guys. He's got a brand new family. I'm super excited to talk a little bit about his book. First, let's go ahead. Let's jump right in, Adam, so we don't waste any time. Man. About your book.
Yeah, well, first off, that intro had me wanting to pitch Travis the idea of Granite State Ska. Would you be down for a sequel?
There you go.
Believe it or not, you're not the first person who's asked for Granite State Ska. I think there's a market there. You're not the first person.
Good. I'll read it. If I don't write it, I'll read it. But enough about Granite State.
Actually, he's got his uncle is kind of the goth guy, and I could see there being another family member that is a ska guy.
Cousin Ska.
I'm down with that, man. I'm down with it.
So I am the writer-creator of a book called Knock. It is Green Arrow meets Daredevil, Hawkeye meets Daredevil. It's about a character named John Knock who wants to be a superhero, but he has no superpowers or, quite frankly, any abilities. So he gets a bow and an arrow and tries to hunt the city's most demented, messed up serial killer. And it goes about as you'd expect.
Fantastic. I love that.
Nice.
Let's take a look through the campaign here a little bit. I was looking through some of these covers, man, they're so freaking gorgeous. I got that cover A. I'm seriously gonna grab that one. So let's talk to us a little bit about these covers, because I know you had some of these. You're doing it a special edition this time around, right?
Yeah, so I did a direct. I'm calling it direct. It wasn't through the actual direct market per se, through Diamond or Lunar or anything. But I did a small little friends and family type run last year. So this is the first, I guess, earnest attempt at getting it in front of an audience. Especially through Kickstarter. But we have 4 covers, including a sketch. But the cover A, both regular and metal, is by Ram Silva. Cover B is by Samir Samau, who was the artist on Shit Show, and he's doing a short story on this special edition. And then cover C is by a frequent collaborator named Juan Angel, and he just does dope ass work all the time. And anytime I get to work with Juan is so exciting.
I was able to have the pleasure to work with Juan as well. He's really, really good. I like the covers. Oh man, he's just a great artist.
He's good. He does like video game visual development and stuff.
He didn't even start as a cover artist, did he?
Yeah, he does. That. I don't even know where we found each other. I think it was like I was just trolling ArtStation one night or something. I'm like, have you ever done comic covers? Because you do some dope ass work. And now he's done
tons of
20. Yeah, he's done like 20 different covers for me. So yeah, Juan's awesome. He's dope. He's probably going to work for like Marvel or DC Studios someday. If he doesn't already, who knows? He can't tell me because NDAs and stuff. But yeah, Juan's the man. And we're getting there, man. I think we kind of passed the point of the Kickstarter campaign where it's like, man, Just give us a backer.
Just
we
fun
just want one backer. And it's slowly starting to pick up again after yesterday and today. So we're in the home stretch, 5 days left, I think. And we're getting there.
That's very cool. So what's a little different from this time around when you said you did like a friends and family campaign?
All the covers are brand new. The first time we're doing a sketch cover, we're doing a short story in the back of this as well. So I think we're up to 28 pages. So that's kind of the little special edition, plus some add-ons as well. For the first time through my Kickstarter offerings, I can offer Shit Show and Keepers of the Cosmos, my previously published comics, as digital offerings. So you get the full universe. Knock is sent in, and then we're doing Pogs as well. If you guys remember Caps. Pogs is a trademark. What are you doing,
okay.
Cap?
I'm
Um,
just old enough to remember Pogs.
Yes,
Nice.
Pogs is a trademark. So we are doing Pogs, but we are doing Caps, short for milk caps.
And
So you can get
I
those as
used
well.
to collect those all day long, man. We would go to the swap meet and I would come back with like new stacks of them, dude.
I remember getting allowance, and I'm like, well, these Pogs only cost 5 cents, and I got 10 cents in allowance, so let me go get 2. Down at the Ben Franklin, you guys have those in your neck of the woods?
No.
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 It must be an Iowa thing. But yeah, we're trying to bring Pogs back. Those are part of this, and who knows, man.
I like it.
I'm down with it.
Who's doing your interior art?
Nicholas Santos, a Brazilian artist, is doing the interior artwork. Viviana Di Chiara is doing the colors, and she did the colors on Keepers of the Cosmos as well. Nick Santos and I had a short in Travis / Jerome's Holiday Spirits 2. And he's done a bunch of other short stories with me that haven't seen publication yet.
Yeah, it's nice stuff. I love the colors. Love the way you're spotting the ink there. Great stuff.
Thank you. That's all them. I wish I could draw.
I realize
I can't draw like you, Mr. Morris, but
very kind of you. But
very cool.
No,
all right, let's go. Go ahead, Ben.
No, it's great to. It's one of the things I really love every week is just seeing. Mostly we have the writers on, but seeing all this great artwork and being able to talk about it is always a lot of fun. So
I do have to point out that Adam Barnhardt has always impressed me with his corner boxes, man.
I was going to say something about that.
Kills it on those things. Like every single time.
I spent way too much time on that. I will not reveal how many hours I just sat in Photoshop just staring at my screen. But yeah, that is my artistic contribution to this book.
So I think design is hugely overlooked in a lot of indie books. And when you see something that does look really solid, really professional, and I would even say like this looks a little better than what you tend to see design wise on a lot of big publisher books. Just because you're free to be a little more stylish about it. And when that comes through, it really shows. So that was, I would say it was time well spent. It looks really good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not sure how you guys feel about it, but I'm like, it's awesome self-publishing, but at the same time, it's like, man, I have to make the decisions. It's like, I just want someone to make the decision for me,
Yeah, I feel that one. I've always been super, super impressed by those things, man. And it's because, the design on that stuff, like it's so clean. But let's go ahead and talk to Jeff here. Talk to a little bit about it because you haven't been on our show before. Let's talk to a little bit about your book here. First, tell everybody who you are and what your book's about.
So I'm Jeff Ryder, and I'm the creator of the Kickstarter series Major Homes and Captain Watson, which was out last year. And this new book is a prequel to that original series. It's called Sheffield Holmes and the Adventure of the Errant Slipper. It is a traditional Sherlockian style mystery. It's about Sheffield Holmes, who's the nephew of the great detective, sort of a next generation thing. And he is serving with the British Army in India, and he hunts both a man-eating tiger and a murderer. In the book.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's got art. Go ahead.
No, art's by my buddy Jarrett Katz, who he and I have worked on a couple of different things before, some short comics and some corporate stuff. And the colorist is Wilson Go, who's a partner that Jared works with a lot. And Justin Birch is lettering it because he letters all the Sheffield Holmes books because he sort of gets the wordy book. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It looks cool. I was going to ask you if you had read any of the Flashman novels by, I think, George MacDonald Fraser.
I have not.
Okay, there was one of the novels takes place in Africa, and he's being hunted by one of Sherlock Holmes's enemies. I think Colonel Moran or something like that.
Yeah.
And I wondered if that's funny, if something you're picking up on here.
No, so this is actually based on a pro short story that I wrote. So it's an adaptation of something I'd already written before, which is in a completely different medium, which I'd never tried to do before, which was a lot of fun. But no, at this point, I've been working on Sherlock Holmes or on Sheffield Holmes, Major Holmes, and Captain Watson for about 5 or 6 years now, and I don't read peripheral Sherlock things at all. Like I read the original canon over and over and over, and that's it. Like I've never read the Enola Holmes stuff. I don't watch Sherlock on the BBC anymore. Like I've completely cut off everything else so that I'm not like being influenced by other things, and it's just me and my world, and you don't want to trip over other people's stuff. So unfortunately, there's all this great Sherlockian things that I have not had a chance to get around to, and then until I get this finished, we're probably not going to be able to do it. I'm just sort of staying in my lane and trying to focus on my own thing.
I guess that's smart. I'm picking up on a lot of public domain stuff for my next project, and I'm kind of in the same spot. I'm like, I don't want to read Project Superpowers because I'm a little worried I'm going to end up in one of those places as well, and at least want to make sure I come by it honestly. But again, I mean, kind of to reiterate what I said before, this art is amazing, and I think the colors just have such a cool, dramatic, cinematic feel.
Really, Jared and Wilson
really
are awesome. Like I said, they are a team and have worked together on a bunch of stuff before. In fact, the last project that Jared and I worked on was also about Africa and had animals and stuff in it, which is one of the reasons I picked him when this came around. And we knew that Wilson would be able to do because it's a transition of a lot of light and dark, and it's the heat of the day in India, and then the hunting at night, and you want that cool back and forth. So we had a lot of fun with it.
No, very cool. I mean, I love one thing I love about a lot of indie books. I feel like, and this is a sort of coloring specific issue, they kind of do a thing where it's like a little monotone or kind of a washed out feel, which is a little easier and quicker to do. And, budgets are what they are for this stuff. But like when somebody really goes for it and does kind of big 2 style coloring with all the highlights, all the, all the intense colors, that's really cool to see. I really like to see people swinging for the fences in that way. So this is very cool looking stuff.
Thanks, man. I'll pass it on to the guys. I didn't draw any of it, so I can't take credit. Like it wasn't me. They're the guys who are great at this stuff. So
as an artist, I mean, that's always what I go to first. So I guess I feel compelled to point that stuff out when I very nice stuff.
Jared and Wilson are awesome. I love working with those guys.
So creatively, is this kind of a Ghost in the Darkness type setup, or like is this? Tell us a little bit more about the story.
Yeah, a little bit. Like I said, we had done the original series, and then I wrote a series of short pieces that were sort of establishing each of the 4 characters from the main story and how they ended up in our longer series. And this one is in particular sort of touches on the idea that Sheffield Holmes was a military man before he was a detective. Before he sort of followed in his uncle's footsteps, he's been serving in the army since he was very young. And in fact, to figure out how to establish who he is within the Sherlock, within the Holmes family, who he's related to, and how he can be Sherlock's nephew and all that stuff. So we started with that idea that he serves with the British Army in India, and that his father, who's Sherlock's older brother, is a sort of a local squire and a member of the aristocracy, who's a part of what's going on there. And then, but at the same time, like we originally created the idea that this story was very, very Holmesian. In the original story, he's approached with something, he goes out and solves the problem, he comes back and tells you how, which is super common in Sherlock stories, and not a lot of action adventure and the kinds of things that you need for comics. So we wanted to throw in, really high level action adventure type stuff, and there's not a lot much more action adventure than man-eating tigers. The entire Holmes series, because it's because it's period historical fiction, has led me down these unbelievable research rabbit holes that I never ever intended to get into as the writer. And I mean, I read volumes of stuff about Sherlock Holmes, like I said, and I read the canon, but also, like, for this particular project, got into researching the man eaters in India that have been a thing for years and years and years, and why um, animals become in this turn on humans, and what causes this level of strange, and it was gripping reading, and it led to this sort of action adventure take on the story. But at the same time, we wanted to talk about, like, abusive nature, and things that you, as humans, intruding in places that we shouldn't be in and stuff. And it felt, when I was writing it, which was back during the pandemic, like the kind of thing that I was sort of struggling with, just being stuck at home, and why is this happening to us, and that kind of thing. And so it's sort of that idea, the original idea, sort of grew out of that. And, it turned into this fun romp, and chasing a tiger through the wilderness, and then catching the murderer as well. So it had this Holmes vibe, and it was a neat book.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love to get. I'm a huge history buff, so whenever I have a chance to dig into something like that, especially when what really strikes me about what you're saying is, like, you were kind of relating some of that to the pandemic, and, like, you're stuck at home, you're wondering why this is happening, and I think we all felt like, we were being blown about by forces beyond our control. To really personify that in a story, and then, obviously transport it to another setting, is something I think really works well. And it's, in addition to that, it's a ton of fun to research and find parallels with what's happening to us, present day.
Yeah, and it was neat as a writer because, like, when we presented the original Major Holmes and Captain Watson series, I had, of course, done a lot of this research, and looked at the Holmes canon, and thought about how am I going to create a new character who fits into this world, and how does he plug in, and what does the family tree look like, and that kind of stuff. And there's this incredible amount of backstory for Sheffield Holmes and our Captain Watson and some of the other characters in the book that I know that no one else is ever going to get to get into. That if we explore the story far enough, hopefully we'll get to see a lot of it. But I know all of it, of course. Like, I've completely created all this stuff in my brain, and I had been challenging myself to write some short fiction. And so I wrote a handful of short stories that were these stories. But then everyone I showed them to kept asking me, well, when are we going to turn this into a comic? Well, how come this isn't a comic already? Like, why didn't you make these into comics? And I was like, well, man, I'm trying this other thing. I'm trying to get in this other lane, and and work this different writing muscle that I've been neglecting for a long time. But I couldn't get it out of my head. Yeah, why don't I make these into comics? And and I got poked enough to the point that we eventually did it. I go to this really amazing Sherlock-centric con every year, and those fans are super supportive and awesome. It's one of my favorite shows to go to every year. It's called 221 BCon, and I always also want to have something new to bring those guys. And so this is to a certain degree, this is our we got to get this done for 221 BCon books, so that I have a new thing for that particular group of folks as well. So it's pretty exciting.
Cool. Yeah, like I said, great looking book. I love the premise, and it's awesome to hear kind of what particular ideas drew you to the setting and creating this book as a comic. Very cool. So I think we should move on to let's move on to Bostic Metaphysical Society with Holly.
Okay. Shout out to Jeff. I messaged you back.
I saw that one. Yeah, we're gonna do it.
Okay, we're all good.
So I've seen a little bit of this before. When I've obviously seen some of your previous campaigns, but give us the quick rundown on what this is about.
Sure. Like, right up at the top, it says the story's about an ex-Pinkerton detective, a spirit photographer, and a genius scientist who battle supernatural forces in late 1800s Boston. What we're doing is, for the first time, we've brought our original 6-issue miniseries, which I call Volume 1, into hardback form. We've never done that before, so this is kind of a special Kickstarter we're running. And I had Rebecca Isaacs do the cover, which she did a fantastic job. Emily Hugh is the interior artist, and a couple things that are making this special from the original softback trade that we did a while back is we have a 10-page bonus story by MJ Erickson, adding in some what I call weapons diagrams from Granville's workshop that he's working on. and pinup art that probably a lot of people have never seen before, that have come in over the years. I was reminded last year that was either last year? Yeah, last year was our 10th anniversary. So Boston
Wow.
Metaphysical has been around for quite a while. For those of you who don't know, uh, we not only have the original 6-issue miniseries, we have the 4 standalone sequels, which are part of Volume 2. We have the first 2 issues out of our new series, Mystery at Pikes Peak, plus an audio drama, novel, and an anthology. So, yes, I encourage Jeff to expand your horizons into prose and other formats and mediums because people like it. People, they will come. And I think probably one of the best stories I have after doing the audio drama, there's a gentleman. I do a lot of steampunk conventions, as you can imagine. And there was a gentleman who had trouble with his eyesight, and but he always loved the story, but he couldn't read it. But then when we did the audio drama, he said, "Finally, I can finally enjoy one of the stories because I can just listen to it, and not read it." So there's you will have fans out there who will appreciate the other mediums that you explore because for whatever reason they can't, they have trouble with graphic novels or reading problems or something. So yeah, I encourage people to explore other formats for your universe.
Yeah. I just wrote 2 prose sections for my new comic. I'm pretty nervous about it. I've never done that before. I'm going to throw it up on our creator Discord pretty soon, see what people
Okay.
think. But it's interesting to take something, especially characters you're familiar with in comic format, and then have to describe so much about them. And I think it's a fun way to really kind of see your characters from a different angle, that I've really enjoyed. So
It is, and it's also a good way to bring new fans into your world. Uh, Having done a lot of Comic Cons, I will
mhm,
have women come to my table who are primarily prose readers, and they
mhm,
gravitate towards a novel. But then I say, well, the novel is a prequel to volume one. I never repeat a story. And so everything is original and it's new, but everything is linked and it enriches every other story you read. And so I end up selling both the novel and volume one.
mhm.
And so I, gradually bring people who won't normally read a graphic novel will go like, well, this is interesting. Let me explore this other medium. So yeah, it's a good way to cross pollinate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's the technical thing. If we got people that generally enjoy one medium, but you know, will go to another if they're following a story. That's one thing I've found really interesting about the audio dramas. I've seen a few people do that. What was it like to kind of make that happen? And did you go out and find voice talent? And did you write a full script? Like, how did that come together?
Well, it come together originally when I was at the Nebula conference before the pandemic, and a friend of mine who had done her own audio drama with her husband. They did 4 years of an audio drama called Sage and Savant, and she said Boston Metaphysical is like perfect for an audio drama.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, but if I'm going to do this, you and Chip, her husband, you have to help me. So during the pandemic, when we were all locked down, I hired them and I wrote a full script. It's 8 episodes long. It's a little over 4 hours, and we have 12 cast members. So it's a full cast, special effects, original music. So it's like your classic radio play that
Wow.
you used to, back in the day.
Yeah, I just started a few months ago. I started listening to the Shadow episodes on YouTube.
Oh, those
That
are
is
fun.
really crazy stuff. And that's another medium that I thought like I was getting into the stories, but I was also thinking like, boy, that is such a the way you have to kind of go out of your way to make the characters describe things must have been such a big pivot to what we're used to doing in comics
Yeah,
and
and
certainly in prose too.
and to have them explain things without it seemingly being expository.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a balance in there that you constantly have to play with. And I really enjoyed writing the audio drama because it was using my brain in a whole different way to, be able to do this and to communicate to the actors and to my sound engineer. It was a lot of work and a lot of time.
Mhm.
But so it's just if you have thoughts of doing this, just to let you know, it's a time suck. I mean, it's worth it. But yeah, it's a time suck.
I'm sure that, I mean, like I said, that must be such a big pivot to have to just step outside your story a little bit, especially when you're used to doing it one way and
Yes.
to do it another way. But just to talk about the artwork a little bit, if I can pan back up there, I love
Sure.
how animated this stuff looks. Really nice colors. It just
Yeah,
really has a
that's
cool world.
MJ. That's a page from the bonus story that MJ
Okay.
is finishing up right now. And that is Emily's work. That is the first 3 pages of chapter 1,
Mhm.
with coloring by Gloria Kali and Fariza Kamaputra.
Yeah, very cool stuff. I love this monster. This is what I was when I was looking at this the other day. Thought, wow, that really pops. Love the way those eyes look and just the shading and everything. It's
Yeah.
really solid stuff. Very cool. Yeah, love to see this. So let's jump over to Travis with Coins of Judas. So I know, Travis, this is the trade paperback collection of something that's been out for a while, but kind of run through Coins of Judas for us.
Well, that statement's half true. So the first part of Coins of Judas 1 and 2 have been out for a bit, but Coins of Judas the Gambler 1 and 2 are actually just in previews right now. So the one was last month, and number 2 is now. So this campaign is combining it all into a trade, and they all are going to end at the same time. So if you were backing the Diamond, so if you're a comic store guy and you want to do the Diamond, you'll get it at the same time you'd get this, because we wanted to make sure we're honoring all audiences, not excluding, not including all of them. So this is the trade of all 4 together. So we have a hardcover and a soft cover with different options, which is really cool. We have the 2 covers, and this is the full story. It's really fun. Coins of Judas is one of my more popular titles. People really love to talk about it. The basic premise is 30 pieces of silver that got drops in front of Judas spawns 30 demons bought with the worst things you could buy with those coins. So, sin, all sorts of sin and children that you could buy, and all sorts of evil manifestations that you see in this, which is fun.
Very cool. Love these covers. Great stuff here. I really like this one that looks like the sort of slots thing there. I was going to ask you about this, and I don't want to get too far. If you want to go back into the story a little bit, we should circle back to that. But you do a lot of variant covers. I've drawn one. I've noticed that for Granite State Punk, there was one that was like super design heavy, a little flatter, but that was one people really liked. Have you noticed any kind of back and forth between like people liking a standard cover that's a little more normal as what you'd expect to a comic cover, and then what do you find are the most popular other types of covers?
It's hard, right? Because everyone wants a different thing. I feel homages are always done well. If you're doing a Kickstarter, people tend to like the homages. And I try to have different aspects of it. But I mean, that one happens to be the main cover because that's our artist. I just loved it. That was his stuff. Normally, that is not the main cover, but that's cover B for the Gambler because that's Rollins who did the art. He just had this really good concept of what I thought it would be. So cover A, I tend to have it be the main artist of the book, and then I delve from there. But I always try to have themes. So every one of my books, even if you don't know it, there's a theme to one of the covers. So for Granite State Punk, for instance, we have a black and white one that's punkified. For for Broke Down 40 Bodies, we had like a double wraparound black and white. For Voodoo Nations, we have a day and night variant. So I always try something new on each one and see what sticks.
Very cool. Yeah, like all these covers are super solid. But yeah, I wondered that because there was that one is just such a. I would say it's a little more designy. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that's something I like. I mean, as a graphic designer, I'm always, I'm an artist. I want to just make the coolest image I can. But there's the graphic designer in me that's kind of like, yeah, I want to think of this more like a book cover you'd see at Barnes and Nobles, which is a lot more type heavy, a lot more design element heavy. So, and I feel like comics kind of need to go in that direction as the expectations people have from what they want from collected volumes or just like I think that we're a lot of us are getting away from they want more like a manga experience. And I think if you look at manga, it's really well designed. It's not necessarily as art heavy as a comic book cover. And there's something that's really cool. A lot of Kickstarters is people will go in that direction and make stuff that I think is a little more design heavy and less, just like totally art centric. It was really cool. But to circle back to the story, so this sounds kind of like an 100 bullets type premise where there are just all these coins out here causing problems, and is there any character, like how does this kind of unfold in the story?
Well, so everyone for years have been asking, when are you going to write your superhero? When are you going to write your superhero? And that's really hard for me because I've made no bones about it. Like I want to work for Marvel and DC one day. That's something I really want to do. So this is my answer to that. So if I was going to do I think my best strengths is like in the Ghost Rider vein. So I wanted to write something a little bit Ghost Rider, a little bit John Wick. I wanted to use families and organizations and cults. Like I love that stuff. That's the stuff that I study. Like if I'm not watching something that's fiction, it's all about cults and like old history. This actually, a lot of this stems from The Unexplained by William Shatner. Like The Gambler is literally an episode of that. It's about, there's this area in New Mexico that has all these buildings that they don't know what happened, but they know that the Navajo came in and this guy came in and he challenged everybody to various arts of challenges, and he won and eventually made them all slave and made them build a house, and then they all disappeared. Like nobody knows what happened or why they built these strange things, and that stuff fascinates me. So I'm always looking for stuff like that to add to my work. I feel it's important to add as much realism as possible because I love it when someone buys one of my books and then they Google it after. I do that in Granite State Public. There's always historical stuff because I really want to, be part of the bigger zeitgeist and create myths and folklore about the world around us.
Yeah, no, I love that. We just started watching that show. Like my wife and I put that on when we go to bed, but we're not like going to really watch something. We just want some background noise to fall asleep to. And that show always like, I'm like, all right, this one goes to sleep. And then there's something in there. I'm like, oh, that's pretty interesting. I need to pay more attention to that and end up staying up for an hour to watch something about pyramids in the Antarctic or something like that. But that's okay.
It's a weird show. You'll love it. And then he'll be like, birds are possible aliens. And you're like, what are you talking about? And like for every episode you love, then William Shatner will tell you some bullshit. You're like, what are you talking about?
So he's the one behind birds aren't real, huh?
Right.
All right.
Oh my God. My wife just explained that conspiracy theory to me the other day. And I'm like, wait, you gotta be slow down.
I love it.
That can't be a real thing.
let's take a quick break here. And I think Adam Barnhardt has to leave, so we're gonna say goodbye to Adam. And so make sure, Adam, please let everybody know where they can find your book and you and all that good stuff before we.
Yeah, www.knockcomic.com, NOCK, at Adam Barnhardt on all social media.
Fantastic. Thanks again for hanging out with us, man. And we'll see everybody else after this really cool commercial, and then we'll talk to you guys a bit on the other side.
All right, here we go.
Click that mouse and warp into All Ages of Geek's website, your ultimate portal to everything geek culture. Here you'll find articles that speak your language, from the latest anime buzz to the coolest tech trends. Our mission, to celebrate geekdom in all its glory. Whether you're a gamer, a comic enthusiast, a 90s kid, or an anime aficionado, we've got something for you. Dive deep into them with All Ages of Geek.
All right. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. And that was our friends over at allagesofgeek.com. So if you guys want to check out a really cool website, head on over to allagesofgeek.com. They have all kinds of cool stuff. They just got back from, I think it was PAX Con that they got back. So there's all kinds of really cool new content over there if you guys want to check it out. Interviews, articles, all kinds of fun stuff. They're also creating a comic book about their TTRPG zine that they did, and some characters and all that good stuff. You guys can read all about that in Archetypes. We are going to be fulfilling that we just finished that one, and we funded, and we're going to be going into production for Archetypes magazine. And once that hits, you guys, you're going to be able to read all about what they've done and what they're going to be doing within this industry and all this fun little stuff. So thank you guys for hanging out with us and checking out All Ages of Geek. Let's move right back into this and talk a little bit about the marketing side. Travis, we ended up with you. Let's keep talking to you a little bit about this stuff, marketing this kind of stuff, because you were talking about putting all the historical things inside and all that stuff. How do you tend to market these Kickstarters? Because you tend to do quite a bit of Kickstarters here and there. So tell us a little bit about what goes into marketing these things.
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's really, really hard because there's different elements. Like this one is the hardest that I've been able to done because I'm not in complete control, right? I don't do the updates. Joey did the art design. He did the reward tiers. So it's a little different than my stuff, and it's actually learning, trying to learn from it and trying to figure out what's okay and what's not okay to do, which is super interesting for this campaign. Not a negative or negative thing. It's just a new experience for me and trying to figure that out. But for me, what I do is first I hit my audience. I hardcore hit. I think email lists is the most important thing in crowdfunding. It's the hand down. They are your audience. They can't be taken away from you, and having your own email list to control that is a big key. Doing shows like this to make sure people are aware, and then really like educating people on why you're doing it. People need to know why, like the bigger why. What's your dream? What's your goal? Why is this book important? I don't think enough people do that. I think a lot of people who throw things, they just throw things on the Kickstarter, and they don't share their passion. One of the great things about everybody you had here, from Adam to Jeff Metal, these people are the most passionate people in the comic industry. Same as Ben. When they do something, a project, you can really feel that. And I think that's the biggest part for me is marketing, is sharing that life out, sharing it. I even do shows, once a week, every Thursday, to help others get their passion out and talk about their projects, and to make sure people are aware of them, to share my audience with other people's. Because I think a lot of people think it's a finite amount of money, right? Like there's just one guy out there that funds everything, and he decides how much each person gets, and it's just doesn't work that way. There's enough. If you have enough products, people will figure out the money if they really want to get it. Let them come and find it.
I always say to people, like, if people love it, they're gonna get it. No matter what, they're gonna find a way to get it.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's something that's kind of important. I've just been realizing lately. I've seen a lot of other creators say that from a marketing perspective, and I think as creatives, I don't know that we all kind of gravitate to that realization first. But it is very important to sell yourself. I was watching a podcast with a bunch of comedians a week ago, and they said, like, a lot of this is not necessarily about our jokes or the stories we're telling. You kind of got to think of it like a salesman. You are kind of selling what you are, where you've come from, and what you're trying to do. And I think this is a cool example of that, when you kind of say, like, hey, this is kind of my take on a Ghost Rider-y type thing. And when you read into that creatively, you kind of see, like, there's the way you've got these characters designed, the mask, it's got that kind of Marvel DC iconic look. Like, that mask could definitely be something that you would put as a very simple drawing somewhere and people would get it. In the same way you could think of that as like Batman's face or Ghost Rider. It's an iconic thing. And I think that not only is that cool to sell yourself and to make people like want to get on that ride with you, but it also kind of says, hey, if you like this, you're also going to like, what this story is, if you like those other books.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Even something you said earlier, 100 Bullets is 100% influencing everything I do. I think it's one of the greatest comic series of all time. So you can see that, and you know that because you followed me for a little bit, and you can kind of feel my influence, even though I don't think I've said 100 Bullets in many interviews. It's just you can really tell on the way I do things, the influence of it, much like Grant St. Punky's very Constantine feeling, these influences weigh on you. And those, I think that those help you get a fan base. Like, these are my people. Hey, if you like these things, I like those things too. Let's share those things together and rock on. I think that everyone who's one of the secrets to comics that I don't think anybody talks about is everyone who's big. Brian Michael Bendis, or you look at Tierney, all of those guys built a strong fan community and shared what they loved and cared about to get to that level. They built that fan base and that friend base of like, I like this stuff too. Let me show you my stuff. Even Donny Cates, they built this fan base of like, here's what I love. Let me show you what I'm making. Maybe the stuff that I love and that we all love together, it's kind of similar. We can all rise together. So I'm super inspired by that. And I hate the people who are like, I'm just going to do my thing. I just want to do my thing, keep my head down. Well, you're not going to get to that next level if you do that. You've got to share your heart, your stuff, and you got to read. You got to read comics. You got to read.
Well, a big inspiration and somebody who's kind of been around the block on Kickstarter is Madeleine. She's done a whole lot of Kickstarters, and she knows how to market her stuff now, and she's doing all these different things. So tell us a little bit about how you've done it from the very first inception until now.
Well, I agree with everything that Travis said. I mean, you have to have a newsletter. I'd like to emphasize that you also have to be part of the community. And when I first started Boston Metaphysical, I was doing 20 plus cons a year, every little tiny little thing just to build up that fan base. I don't do that anymore because I just can't do that anymore. And my time has to be more spent in creating than that part of my life. But you do have to be brave and get review copies out there. I know I was much more aggressive than I am now about getting reviews and getting onto podcasts. Though I do at least 10 to 20 podcasts for every Kickstarter that I do. I reach out to people, as you guys know, but I really can't express more about being part of the community, and the independent creator, particularly comic creator community, is a really good example of, a rising tide brings us all up. And as Jeff knows, earlier today, I reached out to him to cross promote, and because I looked at his stuff and I said, like, yeah, we're kind of in the same wheelhouse here, detective, mystery. This should work. Our backers would probably like each other's stuff. There's a historical context to it. I love history. He clearly loves history.
I love that you said that because a lot of times you have friends who reach out. You're like, hey, I know you got something. I know we're not, our fan base may not be very similar, and you cross promote with them. But how much more of an impact is it when you have somebody that has something similar?
It has a greater impact because I'm pretty sure that many of my backers are gonna like Jeff's stuff just by looking at it, and and if some of his backers have never heard of Boston Metaphysical before, they might like, I like history stuff, and this has this mystery, and if I like some supernatural, this might be in my wheelhouse. And so it's worth the effort to reach out. Travis knows too. We cross promote with each other all the time.
Very good. Jeff, let's talk to you a little bit about that. How much is that is true?
All of it. Oh, no question about it. Every word. Going back to Travis at the beginning and the importance of things like email lists and community and Matt, I'm talking about like the cross promotion. Every Kickstarter I run, I feel like I get a message from everyone who's also currently running a Kickstarter. Hey, do you want to cross promote? Hey, do you want to cross promote? Hey, do you want to cross promote? and I try to. One of my back when Twitter was Twitter before it exploded into the cesspool it is now. I used to abandon my campaign completely every Friday, and in the spirit of Follow Friday, I would talk about nothing but other people's stuff all day on Fridays. And you know, in a month-long campaign, you're going to get 4 Fridays. And I'd have 4 Fridays just never shutting up about other people's stuff, right? Because it's valuable. If you're not in it and you're not a part of the community and you're not you know, Travis said reading. If you're not reading comics and you're not looking at the things that are on Kickstarter and or the crowdfunding platforms, and you're not a part of the crowdfunding world, then you come across as disingenuous. You come across as someone who's only in it for themselves and not in it, you know, to make good stories and be a part of that world. And you know, I've had offers to cross promote, and I go look at people's platforms, and I'm like, wow, you know, 6 created and 6 projects backed. That's not being part of the thing. And then you see guys like Travis who back thousands of things, and it's like, yeah, these are the guys that I want to have in my corner. And Madeleine and I have crossed paths at lots of shows, and I already knew that Boston Metaphysical was exactly the same kind of thing that Major Holmes fans are going to be interested in hearing and looking at it. And so that's an absolute no-brainer. It's going to be great. I also really appreciated, like I say, the idea that there's a method of building your own audience, and we've been making this book for a while in some form. And then there's also again, I talked about that one specific convention that I go to every year, but there is something to being in, you know, the niche communities. I write other things that are not Major Holmes, but I spend a lot of my time wandering around in the world of Sherlockian study and Sherlock fan fiction and different things like that. And like I said before, well, I don't read a lot of that stuff anymore because I'm trying to keep my sort of creative thing pure. I still exist in that world. I still listen to all the podcasts. I look at the info for the Baker Street Irregulars and all the great stuff that's going on in that thing, because I'm a part of that world and I'm doing the best that I can to be there too. And that's not necessarily comics. Like, that's not going to my comic shop or going to Kickstarter or whatever. That's getting involved in a whole other world of academic study and discourse and different things. And it's great because I'm passionate about that stuff. I wouldn't be writing this if I hadn't loved Sherlock Holmes since I was 9 years old. The very first version of the story of this that I ever wrote, I wrote it for school when I was 9. I dragged it back out, and I've been passionate about it that long. My grandmother gave me my copy of the complete Sherlock Holmes. It's sitting on my desk over here, and it's falling apart. I've nearly destroyed it because I've read it and reread it and reread it. And Travis in particular is not wrong about that. People see your passion for certain things, right? Yeah. And they know that you are putting you into this. I write Sheffield Holmes and the Major Holmes and Captain Watson series, and then this new book because I love this kind of storytelling. I love Arthur Conan Doyle. I love that world. I love adventure fiction. You know, my other things that I do, almost all of my books are me in some form, right? I also do an urban fantasy stories about magical bars because I've worked in bars for 25 years and I love bartending and I love people and I love making drinks. Like, if you don't put you into your thing and you're not passionate about what you're doing, no one's going to care. And when you do those things, it's so obvious when you market stuff, when you talk about, I make this because I love doing X. I make this because I love telling stories like Y. That comes across, and that's the best selling point you'll ever find.
Well, being so in tune or attuned with your fan base, how hard or how easy is it for you to know where to price these things at for them?
To me specifically, or to everybody, or
let's start with you. Yeah, I'm asking you, sir.
Yeah, you know, I look at the market. Go, Jeff. I look at the market when I think about pricing. I look at what is the amount of wow. I need to shave. What is the amount of content? What am I giving somebody? That's
Don't do it. Like, I'm an advocate for not shaving.
No, I should keep going. Okay, we'll see. It gets super white when I grow it out long, man. I don't know. I'm getting old.
We were just that's a different podcast.
That's a whole beards today with Joey and Jeff. We'll get into that later.
Too niche. It's too niche.
We'll have Travis. Travis is since I've met Travis, his is getting a little gray there too.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, no, when it comes to pricing and thinking about that stuff, like I want to give people value for money, right? Like, we talk about, obviously when you go to Kickstarter and you back a book, you're going to pay a little more for a comic than you would pay in your comic shop, right? because we have to. Like, we're not crazy. I have to be able to pay the artists and the colorists and the letterers and the printer and all the different things. That all falls on me as the writer and the creator of the campaign and the product. So I have to be able to make enough money to make this viable. But it's also a matter of, I want people to feel like they're getting something completely interesting and original and
something
unique.
They can't get in the direct market, right?
Well, yeah, that's something that because again, and this is a very, very common thing, I think, these days. People create books, they put them on Kickstarter to prove that there's an audience for it, so then they can take it to a direct market publisher and get wider distribution for it after the fact, right? I am not remotely shy about saying that that's exactly what we're doing with Major Homes and Captain Watson. We're having conversations. We're hoping these things are going to work out. But at the same time, and I talk about this in the campaigns, this version of the book will only exist like this. If a publisher picks it up, if it goes out in the world, there are going to be changes to it. There are going to be new things that get added. There might be things that get edited out or tweaked. You'll never find a version of this book anywhere except directly from this campaign, or if I have leftovers, you'll see me at a show somewhere and you can pick up a copy.
Travis, you have. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your sentence.
That's my point. Like, this version, this is the version. This is the only version like this. And when they're gone, they're gone. So you want to get in on this now. And,
I want to stay on this topic. Because Travis has books in the direct market. He's put some of them also on the Kickstarter market as well. So how do they differ, Travis, when you got two books, things going through the Kickstarter and direct market?
Well, first you got to acknowledge that they're two separate fan bases, which is, I think, the hardest thing to accept. Is that are two separate fan base. So the Kickstarter audience really hasn't seen Coins of Judas because it was in the direct market. Yes, I do have some overflow of people who bought it there, but I see people at cons who've come up to me with Coins of Judas and brought it to me who aren't on my list, on my radar for Kickstarters, who will hunt and find me, and then vice versa. Same thing with Granite State Punk. So it's trying to leverage those two things and finding the best fit. To make this book, it's, even though it's very inexpensive, we've made this book very inexpensive for Band of Arts to put it. They're a small publisher. It does have a cost. So how can we recoup that cost with, the realities of a publisher like Band of Bards or any publisher? Diamond, which is the easiest publisher to get into, has 18% of the market. That's the lowest percentage you can get from literally 2 years ago, where they had 94% of the market. Like, it's wild. It's a huge change. So, we're all growing. So these things have to happen. That's why you're seeing, like, right now, Skybound's on it. Because yes, they have a book. Yes, they can sell it to the direct market, but they're going to make more on Kickstarter / be able to help that creator more. So it's trying to find that balance. My goal is to get my name in as many places as possible. I want as many people to know my name, to be able to see my work, hopefully like my work, find me, hunt me down at a con, see Jeff and I hanging out together and interrupt us. And we will be like, all right, you can sit with us.
Not that that's ever happened before.
It's never happened before. Or people like Jared Lujan, who just got his DC, and he was just like, I'm too good to hang out. Now that Travis and Jeff are here, I got to go hang out with my DC people. It'll go all these ways. But it's
always the cool kids table at lunch. That's no matter how old you get.
I will always make sure I have the cool table, Ben. I will always make sure. Ask Jeff. I will have as many cool tables. At Baltimore, I happen to know Brian Michael Bendis. I have a good story, and I brought Brian Michael Bendis. He sat at my table for a little bit, and I was like, "Look, I bring the people." But I think that when you're doing this, Madeleine is in Boston Metaphysical Society in the direct market as well. It's finding this other audience, understanding that they may be loss leaders and it's more marketing dollars, but what does you gain in the long run to get those, even if it's 20 to 100, like people who are true fans who want everything. Those are the people who I want. I want those people who are now in love with me. And I don't care how much it costs me to get those fans, because they're with me for life, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, Madeleine, let's go to you a little bit about that.
I agree with all of that. And one of the reasons I did the hardback for Volume 1 is that fans had been asking for it. And so this was really a special thing for the hardcore fans. And if I bring in new ones in the meantime, that's awesome. But this was really designed for them. In regards to price point, this is a slightly higher price point than I normally run. Because usually if I'm doing like a new series like the Mystery of Pikes Peak, I'm gonna have a, $5 single issue or $10 for both issues on the digital level. So it's very affordable for people to just roll right in if they don't have a lot of space at home, or they're budget conscious. Uh Probably one of the mistakes I've seen, someone was having trouble funding their trade paperback, and they're saying like, well, we were everywhere, we're having trouble. And I went to go look at their page, and their price point for their digital version of their trade paperback was $25.
Oh. Mm.
Yeah, that should tell you right there. That's way too high. You can get a softback version of mine for $25.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have anything like between the 12 and 25, or actually between the 12 and the 40. And it's really important to have these varying price points for your backers to have a choice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like the Kickstarter sweet spot is anywhere from 35 to like 65-ish dollars.
It is. The average spent on Kickstarters for comics is around $35. Between 25 and 35 for comics. So that's where you want to price point it and work on volume to bring them in. And then you've got your hardcore people who are going to get your upper tiers. But like I said, this is a very special Kickstarter I'm doing. It's unique. It is a bit higher price point than I normally do, with really specific special levels. With everything is limited.
Mhm.
And once I order these and they're gone, they are gone. And so that was the intent of this particular Kickstarter. So others, when I get back to Pikes Peak to do the last 2 issues in Pikes Peak, you'll see a different price point gradient for people who just want to come in, or people who love the story, don't have space, or just don't want to spend, so they can get their minimum digital level and go be happy.
Mhm.
And I want them to be happy.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, that's one thing with
Um,
digital. I always think I tend to try to make that as low as I can, because I know
Yeah.
somewhere somebody's seeing that and saying, "Dude, it's just a file." Like that's something I think we need to figure out as comic consumers. But I know somewhere there is somebody posting on Twitter or saying, just muttering to themselves, possibly, like it's just a PDF file.
I stole an idea from Travis, actually. His whole digital deluxe stuff, those offerings, right?
Mhm.
Like I like, so for archetypes, we did like, I think it was like $6 for just like the regular PDF of like what are we pushing, like 36, almost 40 pages on this thing now. So
Yeah.
so we're sitting at that, right? And then we had $8. For $8 you can get a digital deluxe, but we also offered all kinds of actual working things that people can use, like for like people who wanted to dip their toe into creating a Kickstarter for themselves. We're gonna hook them up with like literally like a little, like a starter pack of, you'll have just use all these files to build out your campaign, and you'll have a little bit of success, right? So things of that nature, right? Thinking outside of the box and putting different things together that just give people, $8. I'll throw $8 on anybody's campaign if I got it in my wallet, right? And I'm getting a bunch of really cool stuff at that, and it's digital and cool. I don't have to wait for it to come in the mail. It just comes in my email, and I got all this cool stuff, and you're loading me up, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have like 4 digital reward tiers, and the first you're looking at right there, that's your basic volume 1 digital, $12. It's 164 pages, plus you're going to get a bunch of digital stretch goals, which we've already made on top of that. But then I start building on that. So say you want digital volume 1 and volume 2, or say you want all of the digital comics, just the comic books. including Pikes Peak. So I have like you get all the comics I have in a digital level, and then the next one is like, well, what do you want for prose? Then the next level includes the comics and the prose, and then the top one includes a download of the audio drama. So, each level, and so it's really easy. And yeah, you can see the comics and prose.
There we go.
Yeah, all the different levels. So you've got everything and in PDF format, easy peasy, affordable. I price the prose books like you're buying, your $5 paperback from Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a real nice gradient, I think, of offerings here. That's something, definitely I want to try and do with my stuff, to just make sure you can meet people exactly where they're at, which is something we're able to do and ought to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly if you're going to start building prose into your world. It's a great way to monetize it.
Very cool. Very cool.
One of the things I want to note, people give Marvel and DC a hard time all the time, but this is the one thing when we talk about digital that you should bless them for, because Marvel and DC could have taken comics away if they wanted to destroy comics. They chose that comics needed to stay the same price that they are in the store. When you buy a $5 comic, it's a $5 digital. You say all the bad things, but if they wanted to get rid of comic stores like a People's Theory or Story, like they would have put it down to $2 and killed it. And because of that, it allows us as indie creators to continue that price point with little resistance. And I don't think they get enough credit for the one thing they did right.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We're gonna talk to a little bit about some of the stuff that we're doing. Ben's got a campaign in pre-launch. Tell him a little bit about Cobalt Crisis.
So Cobalt Crisis is the lead into that. I'm calling it Countdown to Cobalt Crisis. This is going to be about 40, 50 pages. It's kind of like an old school. If you read an old Golden Age comic, you've got an A story, a B story, a few prose stories in there, and then some short stuff that is going to lead into my big earth-shattering epic crossover, which is the basic sequel to Scarlet Twilight, called Cobalt Crisis. And that is basically, if you take your Secret Wars or your Crisis on Infinite Earths type, huge event, but as if it had been done in the 1940s. So this one is over on Kickstarter for pre-launch now. So we're going to do this one and then lead into the big crossover later this year.
Yeah, it's fantastic. If you guys don't know what Scarlet Twilight is, you guys can definitely check that out. Where are we selling those right now, Ben?
This one is on Kickstarter. Larger.
They can get Scarlet Twilight still, correct?
Oh yeah, you can get Scarlet Twilight probably through Diamond or at red5comics.com. And then the larger Cobalt Crisis story is going to be later this year on probably on Kickstarter, but also some other places. We'll see about that.
Give them the premise of Scarlet Twilight for those who don't know.
So Scarlet Twilight is that my previous Kickstarter book. It's basically a Golden Age crime buster with a few dark secrets to hide. So it kind of takes place in that world of Batman the Animated Series, old school Universal monster movies, things like that, with the superhero element added to it. And that's probably all I should say about it. There are some twists in there that I think if you're a fan of Dracula and some other things like that, you will enjoy.
Very, very cool twist. You guys definitely going to want to check that one out if you haven't. And then, like I said, we don't have anything going on right now, but we do have tons of friends that have lots of comic books coming out through Kickstarter and the direct market. Make sure you guys are checking all that good stuff out. And then just keep an eye out for all of our social media. Ben, where can we find you on socials?
Best place is on my YouTube channel, which I think some of you are watching this on now, or on Benjamin W. Morse at Twitter. As you can find me, I post a lot of preview art, a lot of stuff like that.
And then Travis, where can they find you?
Easiest way is travis.substack.com, but I want you to search for Coins of Judas on Kickstarter and back that.
Jeff.
Yeah, so it's Cloud Wrangler at just about every platform in existence: Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, blah blah blah. Cloud Wrangler or Cloud Wrangler Comics. You can always go to cloudwranglercomics.com, which has everything I've ever made and more stuff coming soon.
Fantastic. And Madeleine.
BostonMetaphysicalSociety.com. Like Travis says, just search Boston Metaphysical over on Kickstarter. I'm on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it this week. M. Holly Rosing, and of course Facebook, Boston Metaphysical Society comic. And I'm something on Threads and Blue Sky. I can't even remember anymore. There's too many of these.
Oh, there's too many nowadays.
Sure.
We only had a few, but now there's too much. Thank you guys for hanging out with us and watching this really cool episode. All kinds of really fun stuff. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. You can find me at Joey Galvis 1984 all over the cool places, geekcollective.net. And if you guys are looking for a Kickstarter, creator solutions, we do all that fun stuff, everything from concept to shelf and everything in between. Keep an eye out this week. We're going to have some really big news hitting, talking to you guys about Archetypes 2. There might be something big happening over at Band of Bards. Keep an eye on all the stuff over there. So please come back and hang out with us. Thank you guys. Ben, hit that outro, please.
Take it easy, everybody.